Yes, that title is very much correct, and it's very much unfortunate. But yeah, the creator of Dead or Alive, just this morning, as we have all found out, has passed away, and yeah, it's a pretty bad time. It honestly genuinely sucks when it comes down to it. So first off, rest in peace to Itagaki-san, because honestly, that man was just made some banger stuff. Man made some good stuff when it comes down to Ninja Gaiden, and obviously the main thing I want to talk about is more so DOA when it comes down to it. To keep it very much a stack of all the games that is fighting games that I have played, if I were to no shit give it a top 10 or a top 5 list, I would say DOA is like right there in number 3 for me, right? The only games I could say that probably could beat it is number 1 will be Skullgirls, and not even including the censorship nonsense. Skullgirls is still a good game, just hate the censorship nonsense that they put in. Then number 2, I would say for me will be Street Fighter 6. The reason for that is because that's the first time I actually really took a fighting game actually kind of serious, and as you saw on the channel not too long ago, or at least like a year ago, or whatever, essentially we end up getting platinum with Jury. So you know what? That's pretty damn good. But DOA is like right back there behind Street Fighter 6 for me. And the reason for that is just solely because if I really think about it, it was the first true fighting game I've ever like really sat down and understood it's a fighting game and actually played. Like, the real first fighting game I ever played was obviously Killer Instinct, right? That was like the first one, but it was so on and off when it comes down to it, and it's just like, you know, it was there, but like I didn't really get it, you know, and was half the time terrified of the game because how scared it was, because I was a kid. But then something like DOA 4 came through, because that's the game that got me into the series, because that was the only one that we had at the time, and it brought a whole nother level of like, dang, this fighting game is hard as hell, because why is Alpha 152 beating my ass all the time? Holy shit. Yeah, she was very much hard in DOA 4, and it was nonsense. It was nonsense, and I don't understand, but it was fun nonsense as well. But yeah, it was the first game I've really played in the series, and it was honestly, I didn't even know what I was expecting. It was basically like hot women beating ass, and that was basically all of what DOA is, and that is amazing to me, right? Very much was a fan of Kasumi because she out here spamming the damn wind wheel kicks to the head, or whatever the hell she usually, whatever the hell this move is called. It was fantastic. I was damn sure a big fan of Jan Lee, because this man was beating ass. Also, his arcade ending was like one of the most badass ones I saw, that had the potential to be so damn hard. How he walked out like that, I was like, oh, this man is cool as hell. This man is cool as hell. I see the aura from back then. And obviously, the one main person I would definitely say I had a big ass appeal towards is Ayane. She was purple, and at the time, my favorite color was purple, and she was a hot ninja chick that beats ass, was hard to play, but beats ass nonetheless, and I was super here for it. I was Omega here for it. And honestly, and to keep it very much a stack, and I'll be honest, because DOA 4 was like the first true fighting game I've really ever played, or at least a game that would be considered a fighting game, because since Budokai and all that stuff don't really count, honestly, that would make Ayane my first fighting game waifu, if I'm gonna be honest. She was like the first one I actually gave a damn about because of how cool she was and how cute she was, right? That is why you saw me recently make a whole video not necessarily liking the new version of what she looks like, because she just looks too damn mature. I didn't say the outfit or design was bad. I didn't say it was not necessarily the greatest thing of all time. I would still clap Ayane if that was the case. But when it comes down to it though, it's just not hitting as hard as regular Ayane would, because they took away the cuteness. That is the main thing I really do like about her, and that's just solely how it is. But needless to say though, I've been a big fan of DOA since 4, and basically played DOA 5 and was very much excited for that. And then DOA 6 came out and it was a tragic mess, and let's just be honest, no one really wants to play DOA 6, let's just be real. And let's be real, if it's probably just solely because the man himself, Itagaki, was not necessarily a part of DOA 6's development whatsoever. And so like, yeah, it wasn't gonna be anything shaped up to be probably any good when it comes down to it. And that's just kind of the end story of the DOA games as we kind of know it. which is a bit sad, and it should not end on that sort of note, which is why I think of all the times to enter this video game renaissance, this fighting game renaissance of different games to come back to get another chance, DOA 7 needs to kind of happen. I feel like at this point, especially with his passing, it's time to cash in. It genuinely is time to cash in when it comes down to it, right? The only terrifying part about it is because most of the DOA devs are at Bandai working on Tekken, I don't necessarily know how they would go about it right now with Team Ninja and whatever, right? Because let's be honest, Team Ninja very much don't necessarily like any of the crazy stuff that makes DOA what DOA is. It is hot women, yes, I know, it is a terrifying thing that people are scared of for some reason, but hot women exist. They very much are fictional characters at the end of the day. They very much do a lot of badass things, and they look hot while doing so. Yes, people are, for whatever reason, just terrified of these type of characters in all shapes and forms, so much so that they get disrespected just because it's a quote-unquote gooner game or whatever the hell you want to basically make up for it. It's a very stupid thing that people get pissed off about, a thing that causes outrage like it ain't nothing, and it's very dumb. But I do think a DOA 7 needs to happen. That is like the only two games I consistently see people ask for when it comes to, you know, a comeback of some kind. A DOA 7 and a Soul Calibur 7. And since we ain't getting Soul Calibur 7, so at least from how Maximilian Dude had explained it, somebody needs to champion that, basically put their whole career on the line just to make that game kind of work and whatever, and for people to believe in that vision. Then yeah, we need somebody to definitely go ahead and hopefully champion for the idea that DOA 7 should make a comeback. Especially, again, since the man himself that made DOA what it is passed away, unfortunately. The only terrifying thing is, and what a lot of fans fear, is very much they don't want a DOA 6 sort of situation. They don't want to necessarily see what happened with 6 with the weird costume decisions and basically how you switch different parts of a character's outfit and how that always like costs you in some shape or form, like all that sort of stuff. They don't want to necessarily deal with that again. We don't want to deal with the fear that, you know, you might make the characters ugly on purpose, or they end up trying to take away a lot of the raunchier elements of what DOA is away from people's hands, right? We don't want to necessarily see something like that. We want to see what a real DOA is supposed to look like. DOA 5 is still the one fighting game I see people go back to constantly all the time because that's the last good DOA fighting game, if I'm gonna be absolutely honest, right? It's just what it is. People want to see a legit return of DOA in some shape or form, and ultimately, you know, this would be that time to do so. Like I said before, DOA is built off of hot women doing hot things while also beating ass across the street and back to your backyard and slapping way harder than your mama. That is literally what DOA is supposed to be, and anything less will be a disgrace to basically the entire history of what it is. So again, if they're gonna give it a try, they kind of need to straight up bite the bullet and just straight up be like, all right, we made a bad game. The game was not necessarily up to people's expectations. Let's just try it again, because one bad game, I'll be honest, one bad game should not be the death of a series. One bad game should not necessarily be a death of a series. It should definitely be something that we should wait on, but I think the time of waiting is pretty much been done now, and I think it's time to actually try to cash in on a new entry of the series. And I know they did say there's gonna like be a reboot or whatever, and obviously like a few years ago I even made a video talking about that, how about the whole idea of the reboot or whatever, and basically in it I was just saying, like, you know, again, we don't want to necessarily worry about certain things getting removed because it's not fit with social, you know, with social standards of the new times or anything like that. We don't want to see that. We just want the game to be what it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be represented, and all that sort of stuff. Make DOA what it should be. That is literally what we really want. Crazy ass stage transitions, hard ass bosses to go ahead and fight, literally playing as some of the bosses, which is, you know, something that DOA 5 did, which is still cool. Alpha 152 is still an ass kicking machine. Let's just keep it very much a stack, and even go as far, I would say, is include things like an armor break or a dress break or whatever to kind of make it a bit more in the style or in the heart of what DOA can actually do. I don't know if 6 actually has it. I think 6 has it. They might have it. So just implement that back into it again and just have it to be what DOA is actually supposed to be. Let loose. Have fun with the game that you're trying to make instead of trying to, you know, vastly look for a ultra profit. Like, yeah, you want to turn a profit, obviously, but also show that DOA is back. It is better than it ever has been before. That is what we will be looking for if a new DOA 7 were to actually come out or be announced in any shape or form. Because here's my whole thing about how DOA represents their characters and their, you know, female characters and stuff like that versus literally anything else that we've been receiving for the past 5 or something years. Those games alone, while yes, raunchy in nature and you can feel however you feel about them, at least they know how to deal with strong female characters without necessarily diving so headfirst into the trope and being such a head ass of it to be like so in your face about it. They show you the subtlety of it, that yes, you can have some character that looks very good and still can also beat massive ass. Tina is easily one of those damn characters that basically looks very fine, looks very damn good, but she can also put your ass in a damn walls of Jericho and still whoops your ass and look very strong while doing so, right? That's just ultimately how it is. You have characters like Ayane, who in DOA 4's ending basically was out here ready to blow up this whole ass building while getting shot at and literally being in this big ass bowl of fire. Like, yes, you could still again show characters being sexy as all hell, but still also them being strong and badass. Again, I'll be honest, it doesn't take much for anybody to sit here to write a female character to make them strong without them being like, yes, I am the strong woman, look at me. That is literally what half of these people do nowadays. That's literally what most people do nowadays. And it's terrible each and every time. Right? That is just how it is. We know Ayane ain't about that prissy ass life. We know she can box. We know she's an instigator, which we also did a video on about all the times Ayane instigated, which honestly is one of my favorite videos I've ever really done. So if you haven't watched it, I'll put it in the description. But still, nonetheless, you know, they don't necessarily need to be handheld. They just need to exist, have the proper identity, and let them just be able to cook in their own ways. That is literally what DOA needs to do, what they needs to go back to form of. And you know what would also impress me if there was like a new DOA that was going to come out? If you brought back literally as many characters as you could. If you brought back literally as many characters as you could, like a Smash Ultimate sort of situation, and then just bring them all back in some shape or form, I will be here for it. Sure, some can be DLC and that's perfectly fine. You're going to have DLC regardless. But ultimately, bring as many as you can back. I would be extra down for it and let the gameplay actually be, you know, what it can really shape up to be, you know, be basically DOA 5, but also build up on it way more in a better way than what the current gameplay was. That's really all you need to do. Don't even, because I feel like a lot of their issue too, or at least a part of their issue, is that they was trying to get themselves very much in, you know, in line with like things like Evo, or try to basically make it like, you know, more sophisticated of a game. And I feel like that's kind of a part of their downfall. They try to make it way too much of a sophisticated game and try to make it like a proper actual fighting game. Like, yeah, look at us, we were part of the fighting game, people. And not what it's supposed to be. And I feel like that's also what made it feel like it was a bit of horse shit when it came to DOA 6. They were so busy trying to pretend to be somebody else when they should be themselves. They should be unapologetically themselves when it comes down to it. And I think that's the reason why DOA 6 got hit as hard as it did in a negative sort of light. Which, if we're gonna be honest, just again, that's not what you need to just do. You don't need to be some pretender. You are a fighting game. Just do what you have always done and kick ass at doing so. That is literally all you really need to do. And honestly, if you really want to cash in on that, if you really want to actually focus in hard on that, look at Japan. Look at what they look at when it comes down to the DOA series. Look at what they enjoy and then implement a lot of that into what the next DOA game would be. despite you might not necessarily liking the raunchy culture of it or the lewd culture or whatever, essentially that again is a part of the DNA of what DOA is. You can't just again remove that sort of thing. It exists for itself to be that way throughout all the games. So to keep it very much a stack, if you really also want to just, make it even more of a situation where it's like, damn, DOA is going here, that's crazy. Why not use some of the DLC slots and bring over characters from different things that DOA has collaborated with in the past? I mean, it wouldn't be crazy if you want to bring some Seren Kagura character back over. If Marvelous is not going to do anything with their characters and y'all had a whole ass collaboration with them multiple times, I don't see why you can't bring over someone like Asuka or a Hamura or whoever, or even a Katsuragi, to come through and just straight up be a character in DOA. You could do it. You did it with a few other characters when it comes down to like Mai Shiranui and all that sort of stuff. So I don't see why you can't do it for this one. Do a lot of people know who Asuka or what Seren Kagura is? Some people do, but not a lot of people. But ultimately, if you were to do something like that, that would at least also give Seren Kagura some interest again, something that they desperately need for, ever, since their franchise is kind of dead right now, right? You know what else did they collaborate with, or at least they had in tangent of a collaboration with? High School DxD. I know this is a long shot, but just roll with me here. Technically, you had them in Seren Kagura, and both of them kind of existed in some shape and form, kind of in the same time frame. So, like, you could put Arias in the game, or even better, you could put a Kanako in the game, so she's like the only one that can actually throw hands. So, again, there's things that you can do. There is very much things that you can absolutely do. Am I ready for a realistic Konako to come through in a real shape and form? I don't know, and I'm kind of concerned, but ultimately, I would still prepare to see the wifey. That is just ultimately how it is. But there's not just those games, there's other games that you can pull DLC from that could be very good crossover characters, whether it's on the male or female side, doesn't matter. Again, just keep it what it is. Just keep Dead or Alive what it would be, and that is literally all you have to do in print money. That is all you have to do. If you listen to your fan base, and you listen to them well, and you don't screw it up and try to do something else weird and different, I promise you, you will actually make money. You will actually make money if you listen to people instead of trying to listen to shareholders or whoever the hell when it comes down to it. It's just not necessarily something that is gonna cost you hard if you just listen to your people. That's literally what you need to do. And yes, I'm also very much aware of the fact that people very much so is terrified to do a fighting game because how much it costs to keep it going, how much it costs to just do in general, and it's a very much risky ass thing to kind of do. But this is the fighting game renaissance. If you want to put out your best work, this is the time frame for it where people could be interested in it. Hell, Avatar, for whatever reason, is making a fighting game. They are throwing their hats into the ring of things. If you want to cash in on this nice fighting game renaissance, this would be the time to do so. This would be the time to do it, to make or break when it comes down to it. If I'm gonna be honest, this is where you, if you want to look for money, this is where you look for the money. This is the time frame, right? And as far as when it comes down to pricing, whatever, I would like to imagine that it wouldn't be no $80 DOA game. I would imagine it wouldn't be, but still, nonetheless, you can make it work. Just again, actually be smart with the decision making of it. But yeah, my whole point of what I'm trying to say is that DOA is a very much important game for me. It's a game that I absolutely love to see get a comeback in some shape or form, especially now, because again, there shouldn't be, Itagaki shouldn't have left so soon, right? That shouldn't have happened, or at least it shouldn't have been in this sort of like jump scare sort of way where it's like, man, he just came up out of nowhere and basically nobody was ready for it. But that's just how death is a bitch. But when it comes down to it though, it just is sad, because ultimately the last UA game that basically came out was not really a good one, and I would like to have seen his magic work through one more game at least, and we ain't gonna get that. And now it's basically up to whatever dev is out there that is willing to take on the challenge and hopefully and see that things will actually work out right. So ultimately, again, rest in peace to Itagaki. And when it comes down to it, I would like to just hope that we could get something DOA in the near future, right? Or at least an announcement of some kind. Because again, it doesn't make sense. You have all these other fighting games come out, but you mean to tell me stuff like Soul Calibur 7 can't happen and DOA 7 can't happen at all? Something weird there. Or at least, even if you're gonna do a dang reboot, you can't tell me that, you know, the idea of what you want to throw down, it can't happen. I don't know, it just feels a bit weird to me. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to say for this one. Just kind of wanted to express my thoughts about this whole passing when it comes down to it, because it is a bit of a shame. It genuinely is, because, you know, it just, again, is a brilliant mind of a person, of a dev, just very much gone at a time we just didn't expect, and that's just how it is. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say for this one, so hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Let me know who's your favorite character in DOA as well, because there's a lot of them. And just straight up, let me know what your favorite moments in DOA as well as in the comments, or Ninja Gaiden, whatever you like. And yeah, just follow me on the socials, donate to the channel if you can, hype the video as well. And until then, it's been Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.